Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update. So if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go straight over to those Bitcoin for our chart. So yes, we are looking very good this morning. We are actually at present above this very important resistance area, clear above all these recent highs as well. So pretty much swing failing above here aside, we are pretty much gonna, if we establish above here, have nothing but air between, well, around 26,000. I guess the lower side of these wicks around 28,000. We'll actually draw a horizontal on there because that will also be an area of resistance. And then clearly our level of resistance we've got up here as well, around 30,000, obviously around the psychological area of 30,000. So that could be what we have on the cards here. The stock market also, if you want to go and have a look over there, looking very good, taking out these two recent highs. Got a higher closing high than these highs here also, and and looking to try and take out the resistance area, of which if it does, it will be good to have that obviously psychological forehand on the S&P, and then yeah, that will be looking good as well. Dollar index moving in our favor here as well. We're waiting to see if we are gonna bounce off this relatively important level, or whether we're just gonna get supported at it like we are for a time being, and then collapse all the way down to the lofty target of 103, which is still pretty elevated level for the dollar index. US 10-year are back above, just barely above 3% also, so that is of note. But yeah, basically what we've got going on in these markets is that we have realized that the liquidity isn't going to be turned off. The system isn't going to go into a deflationary debt bubble burst. Sovereigns are practically insolvent. They're going to have to print inflation. Let's put this straight, right? Inflation is basically what central banks are after, what governments are after. They love inflation. It's a regressive, hidden stealth tax. Stealthy obviously when it's like 2-3%, maybe 4%, but obviously the figures cover it up at around like between 1 and 2%, but it is higher, and obviously it's not so stealthy when it's getting towards 10%, and obviously that's when the frog that is getting boiled in its inflationary pot realizes that it's getting boiled. So that is the point right now. So they're gonna go through the motions. Obviously there's the political optics of it. They're gonna have to go through the motion pretending, flapping their hands around saying we don't want this inflation, when in reality they do want this inflation. They do not care that it squeezes what regressive means is that it basically squeezes poor people more than rich people, and progressive tax means that obviously as you become richer you get taxed progressively more. So it is a regressive tax, as in as you get poorer it basically impacts you more, and they don't care about that. That is fine. Wealth inequality is they're cool with that. They're cool with wealth inequality and increasing wealth inequality. It's just when, like I said, inflation starts to really pinch and people start to kick off, that they then start to worry about it. And they're not worried about the inflation, they're worried about basically their system, their own safety, all that fun stuff. They're not actually worried about the inflation itself. They're worried about the consequences. So inflation is what they want. Inflation is what they need. They just didn't want people realizing it, and now they're realizing it. It's causing a bit of problems. They pretended to go through the motions of tightening the liquidity, but now they're realizing the system was quickly breaking. That dollar was going very aggressively to the moon, and that is just not. It can't happen in the system. The only way that they can default on this debt is by inflation. They're not going to default by literally defaulting, and therefore they're not going to tighten. They're not going to blow up all the rest of the essential banks around the world. Basically, if we want to take it a step further, what happened was, and everybody was talking about this back in 2008, which is a long time ago. Everyone was talking about this 14 years ago. Basically, the banks went bust, the financial system died. All that risk was then passed on to basically the central banks, which is ultimately carried by the economy. So it's basically the sovereign balance sheet it was put onto, and then ultimately we knew that was then going to be that was going to basically bust, and the sovereigns were going to go bust, and that is literally the process that we're going through now. So yeah, unless they can think of another system to usher in. And you can see that's why we've got all sorts of wild stuff going on around the world generally, politically, control methods, all that fun stuff, because there are obviously they're trying to find any other alternative routes to maybe some sort of a great reset. Hey, who would have thought it, to like to try and transition maybe to something else, because they're out of options basically, and the system is screwed. But yeah, like I said, inflation is all they can have, all they can basically do. They're going to be buying bonds. They're going to be buying. The US is going to be buying European bonds. They're going to be buying Japanese bonds. The US is going to basically be doing currency swaps with other countries. It's going to be reflating basically be expanding its balance sheet, and it is going to be good for risk assets in this inflationary environment. So I think the market has now realized that is the case. They have finally seen the dollar index hit a point where it's just like this isn't going to continue. And it seems like we have turned that corner. So yeah, everybody is going to be talking about look, it's just a bear market rally, we're going to go down. But remember, we've been talking about this for a long time now. The Ludwig von Mises crack up boom, that is what we're going to go into. We're going to go into a crack up boom. These markets are going to go up as the currency devalues, as inflation obviously persists at high levels. That is the end game. It is a crack up boom. You can say people that are thinking the end game is a dollar rally into the moon, liquidity crisis, all that failure. That is one end game, but they are not going to choose that end game. They're going to choose the crack up boom end game. They're not going to choose a deflationary bust. They're just going to choose an inflationary and try and control the population, try and do what they can do, whilst they just try. I mean, literally try. I mean, I am at a loss of the things that they can do until basically the system decides it wants to shift away from central bank control, which it can do obviously by using other assets. I mean, gold is an obvious one, but it does have its issues with actually transacting its storage and moving it, and then maybe even cryptocurrency, hey? Maybe even our good old cryptocurrency. There are other systems once you move away from central banks, because I mean, without going into too much detail, deflation is actually good for the end user, because if you think about inflation as a regressive tax, so therefore if you then have the opposite of that, that's obviously going to be better for the poor people. And by poor people I mean like basically practically all of us, the poor people, the middle class, everything other than basically the super rich. Yeah, I mean, that is a good system. That's how it would work with obviously a sound currency, but that just doesn't allow the super rich to exert control by manipulating the system, giving themselves extra money and resources to do with what they will, and that's obviously why they don't like that system. They like to basically be able to manipulate the system, have unlimited resources that they manipulate out of that system. To control that system. They don't want the normal people having control. So yes, right, ran over, but yeah, stocks looking good. I mean, like I said, everything's probably going to look good now, in my opinion. People are going to say like, it's not different this time. It is different this time because it is the sovereigns that are basically gonna go. They're gonna have to print. They got no option. The only reason that they're pretending to care about inflation is because of the politics of it, and then the potential revolutionary guillotines coming out aspect of it. They don't care about it in reality. They want it. This is what they want. This is what they've always had for years. It's just been able to be relatively covered up. People not realize. People to a certain extent benefit through house prices as one aspect of it, and yeah, people have just basically been a slave to the system, and yeah, that is that rant over. There's not too much else to look at on here. The Ethereum Satoshi parent having a nice little bit of a pullback. I think we even did say a pullback back towards this maybe important horizontal here, and then yeah, not quite reached that, but yeah, it is looking good nonetheless. The USD pairing looking good here at this resistance area, but yeah, looking good. I mean, it does kind of look like Bitcoin potentially will take at the reins for a little bit whilst it potentially goes into it's not a blue sky breakout, but just into this air pocket to the upside. Bitcoin may go on a run, Ethereum may lag, and then when it kind of basically tops out, trades sideways, maybe comes down, then Ethereum then goes on another pump. So we have that. If we want to look at stochastics, we can, but we know that the higher time frames are going to be looking good. I guess we're just waiting for this 10 and 12 hour to reset, but they didn't reset much. This is still pointing up on the 10 hour, 12 hour, yeah, 12 hour still up there. Daily still looking good. Yeah, these were turning down the other day. No, they weren't turning down. What are we on here? Yeah, so yeah, in fact, it was just these shorter time frame ones, wasn't it, coming down? But yeah, 12 hour is a little bit elevated. Daily still looks good though. I mean, these all are looking good for just upward momentum, and then also like over a prolonged period of upward momentum, giving us a very decent bounce that ultimately could lead to new all-time highs. Who would have thought it? I mean, obviously the bearish scenario is, yeah, we bounce up to around I mean, anywhere between 30 and 40,000, get rejected and come back down. But like I said, Ludwig von Mises crack up boom. That is basically how these scenarios end. They don't end with a deflationary burst as central banks decide to actually tighten, because we just don't live in a fiscal responsible world like that anymore, or we wouldn't be in this scenario in the first place. So yeah, that is about it. Not much else to say other than I think we potentially have turned a corner. I think I said it in the other day's video. I think basically the liquidity taps are going to get turned on. People realize that this move in the dollar also, I think I've been saying in my video, this is just disgusting. This is not acceptable in this current system as it is. This could not continue. This is an absolute wrecking ball, and yeah, it had to end. Otherwise, yeah, the system was going to at this point, it was like they basically had the decision of, do we want a deflationary bust, or are we just going to continue on with inflation? And ultimately the answer will always be continue on with inflation, which was why we will get a crack up boom. So yes, can you outpace inflation with your earnings? No. Can you outpace inflation with your risk asset appreciation? Maybe, probably, if you're good at it. Does that mean the rich basically are going to get richer? Yes. Does that mean the wealth inequality is going to increase? Yes. Ultimately, does that mean there's going to be big problems down the line? Yes. Why is it different this time? Because it is a central bank sovereign level that basically the debt crisis is at, not the previous lower tiers that are then passed on the debt to the higher tiers. We're at the end, unless we are going to get, well, unless an asteroid is going to fall on Earth with, I don't know, some sort of new unlimited energy resource, then yeah, we are getting decentralization in obviously countries, and just basically deglobalization, which ultimately is decentralization. So yeah, I mean, whilst that is whilst that is good for the individual people in the countries, it's not good for the system as it is set up. But ultimately, it is better for individual countries, and it is better for a more sustainably functioning global economy, which ultimately we will have to go to, obviously, after the resolution of this scenario. So yeah, there we go. Bit of a random one this morning. Remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.